MSTR's at the market offering of their common stock and selling that into the market to buy Bitcoin has been a story that has allowed them to acquire a lot of Bitcoin, but potentially at the cost of the shareholder and the price of the shares that they hold. In the Q1 presentation by Strategy, they showed that they were roughly around 2% of the selling pressure. So not a crazy amount, but the optics of the ATM, the at the market, was possibly worse than the actual use of it. So they've updated their 2025 guidance in their Q2. I'm going to get in what their new strategy is and how they hope to protect their multiple to net asset value by not issuing their ATM in certain circumstances. We're going to get into all of that and more. My name is Forrest Hodel. I'm a Bitcoin educator and coach, and if you want to book me for a one-on-one session, you can do so through the link in the description. So to further explain the ATM a little bit, essentially when MSTR trades above the value of their Bitcoin holdings, when their share price has a premium on it compared to their Bitcoin holdings, they are able to sell shares into the market and buy Bitcoin with the cash proceeds that they've earned by selling those new shares. And because it's at a premium of the Bitcoin, they're essentially able to arbitrage that premium into Bitcoin per share accretion. So even though they're issuing and diluting the shareholder base by adding new shares, they're still able to increase the Bitcoin per share because of that premium onto their holdings. Now, what we've seen in the past little while is a compression of the MNAV. So their MNAV has gone down, and we can take a look at their website. Actually, their MNAV is currently 1.73, and it's gone up 4.85% today. So their MNAV has actually changed a lot. In the past, it was lower. It went all the way down to, I believe, 1.6, and it's also been much higher. So we want a high MNAV for one reason, is because this multiple to the 1 is going to be more accretive when they issue They're basically right now able to get $1.73 for every dollar worth of shares added, and they're able to take that extra 73 cents and buy Bitcoin with it and increase their Bitcoin holdings and increase their Bitcoin per share because of that. But if this MNAV was higher, say it was 2, they're able to have an extra $1 accrete of Bitcoin value to their shareholders. If it's higher than 2, they're able to get even more. So it becomes more and more effective at a higher MNAV. And the opposite side of this is if the market was to treat MSTR like an ETF, which it's not, this MNAV would collapse to 1. So then they would only trade at 1 times Bitcoin holdings, and the value of the share price would fall a lot to get to the value of only their Bitcoin NAV. So right now, their market cap is 110 billion, but their Bitcoin holdings are 72 billion. So if the MNAV collapsed to 1, the market cap would collapse to 72 billion. In the past, MSTR hit the ATM really hard. They hit it again at 2% of the trading volume, but that was enough to show shorts that there was sort of a cap to how valuable MSTR share price was going to go, or how high of a multiple to net asset value there would be. So then they could do a position where they long Bitcoin and short MSTR, and they're basically arbing the compression of the MNAV. And if they were in that trade fairly recently, they probably did okay doing that. You don't want to do that when the MNAV is expanding. You actually want to be long MSTR. So as much as every company wants their share price to go up, their MNAV to be high, their PE to be high, all these different metrics, and they can try to convey that to the market. One of the ways that MSTR is trying to convey that to the market and trying to showcase that they deserve a higher multiple is to put in like equity guidance for how much ATM there is. So let's take a look at this image from their recent earnings. This is the MSTR equity guidance. We will not issue MSTR below 2.5 MNAV except to pay interest and dividends. So they plan to still pay the dividends for the preferred, potentially by issuing MSTR common, and interest on their convertible bonds, which is very low. And even the dividends here are very low too, compared to the ability for them to issue shares and pay that. Essentially what this is showing is what they will do at certain prices. So below 1 MNAV, strategy will consider issuing credit to repurchase MSTR, so they could buy back their own stock, which would be more accretive than actually buying Bitcoin if they were below 1 MNAV. Below 2.5 MNAV, strategy will not issue MSTR except to 1, pay interest or debt obligations, and 2, fund preferred equity dividends. So they still do plan to issue shares, but not in this opportunistic way of using the issuance of shares to buy Bitcoin. They plan to just issue more preferreds, which are much more accretive. And over time, there's no debt repayment for these preferreds. They're not a big debt instrument that needs to be repaid. So there's just this dividend payment that needs to be paid. And that is in a fiat denomination, which is going down in value, and their Bitcoin holdings are going up in value, and the share price is going up because of that. So in relation, they actually have to sell less shares to cover the dividends over time, even with adding more and more dividend payments through additional issuance of those preferreds. Between 2.5 and 4 times MNAV, if we reach there, strategy will opportunistically issue MSTR to acquire Bitcoin. So if they go above 2.5, what's really interesting here is then they'll start doing the same strategy that they've been doing. They will sell strategy probably on up days. We don't have transparency for exactly how they issue the ATM, but again, we saw around 2% of the trading volume. So they will start to do that, and potentially that would lower or cap how much their MNAV was based on seeing that happen last time, and potentially the ATM being part of the reason why the MNAV has compressed. Above 4 MNAV, strategy will actively issue MSTR to acquire Bitcoin. So there's this cap here really for MSTR to not go above 4 MNAV, where MSTR is just going to hammer the ATM by the sounds of it and keep it below. So currently at the value of their NAV right now, you can see here at 1 MNAV, the value of the share price would be $210. At 2.5 MNAV, the share price would be $600. And at 4 MNAV, the price would be $1,000. So at the current level of Bitcoin holdings, we could only expect a max of roughly $1,000, because any higher than that, they're just going to smash the ATM. And at $600, we begin to see some resistance to the increase of MNAV because of this opportunistic issue of the common shares, which provides a really interesting opportunity for anybody that has some semblance of a short position. If you were to sell covered calls, for instance, if we get close to that 2.5 MNAV, you could sell covered calls closer to the money, knowing that MSTR is going to step in at 2.5 MNAV and start opportunistically issuing shares, which should suppress the price and allow your covered calls to expire worthless. Now, how much they're going to do, you don't know. You're still taking a risk doing that, but essentially this would be the prime time to start doing that with an added advantage to your side by selling covered calls at this position, because now you have strategy working with you to suppress the price, whereas before you don't necessarily. So this is just signaling to the market what value they believe MSTR should have, how they plan to allow the value to run on the share price. Now it's really up to the market to decide, hey, we actually value this company. We believe they can acquire more Bitcoin into the future. We believe they deserve this multiple to net asset values with the amount of intelligent leverage they have and their position within the markets, passive flows, all the other reasons why they should be above a 1 MNAV. And I think this is a really good step for MSTR. The transparency can be argued whether it's a good idea to do this or not, right? You could catch shorts potentially slightly off guard, which shorts end up being buyers if they're on the wrong side of the trade by not announcing this. This gives a framework for people to work within, just as I talked about selling covered calls closer to the money here at between 2.5 and 4x MNAV. But I also think that the optics of doing this very transparently will allow people to more fairly value MSTR, and that it's highly likely that it will continue to actually increase its MNAV as we saw today, that there will be an additional premium on MSTR because they won't hit the ATM quite as hard, and they'll hit their preferred offerings, which are much more accretive anyway in the long run for the shareholders. So I think that this is huge for MSTR, and I think a lot of the bears in this space do not have any, because it's really not interesting to them to keep that up to date with it. They don't know about the preferred. They still think that this is a high debt company with tons of that the convertible bonds are really the story, when we know now that they're rolling these convertible bonds off, or at least they plan to in the future, and that the preferreds are their preferred instrument of choice to acquire debt. And they will use that to buy Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin will outpace the payments that they have to pay to fund those. So it's kind of a simple trade in my eyes. They're arbitraging the current position we're at, where fiat is continuing to go down in value and Bitcoin is continuing to go up in value. So they will continue to make that trade. And with this transparency, especially as a retail holder, we now can expect the MNAV to start climbing back up, and as shareholders be rewarded in the fiat denomination of the share price. So that's about it for today. Just wanted to quickly touch on that. If you haven't seen the earning calls, I recommend checking that out. The second quarter earning call was really interesting. Huge focus on STRC, which I believe is their best product that they've come out with. It's really, really incredible. And I can see a huge amount of interest in that one for sure. And I actually hold some, any cash that I have in my trading accounts, I'll just put into STRC at this point, especially with this ability to arbitrage it until it gets to the stable level where it plans to be at. So hopefully this was interesting to all you guys. This is a big update on the ATM story of strategy. And again, if you want to book me for a one-on-one, you can do so in the link in the description. I also have links to every single thing you need as a Bitcoiner. So if you want to skip the strategy stuff, the TradFi things, you can buy Bitcoin directly with my link for Bitcoin Well and get free Bitcoin for signing up. I also have a link to the Jade hardware wallet, Stampseed kit for preserving your seed phrase, the Start9 servers for running your own node. And you should check out my new website that I helped build, which is called Sats Arcade, which is a way for you to play video games and earn Bitcoin for doing so. And you can also sign up friends and earn additional rewards through the referral program on there. So check that out. I'm really excited for that new project, and there'll be a lot more information on this channel about that, but just a quick little shout out to that one before we do a full hard launch on that. So check it out. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Bitcoin Not Crypto.